Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining our weekly podcast. I'm Robin Lewis, founder and CEO of the Robin Report, which, by the way, is much more than a daily report. We view it as really a knowledge platform from which we do communicate thought leadership on various strategic topics through the daily reports, but also these podcasts, and in the future, some webinars and live events. So along with our chief strategist, Shelley Kohan, who, by the way, is a professor at FIT and Syracuse University, we welcome you to our weekly podcast, the topic of which is the biggest strategic and structural shift in retail's history. That's saying a lot, Shelley, but in a snapshot, and we really do believe this, in a snapshot, it is a small neighborhood store strategy as a totally new distribution strategy for growth, a whole new distribution channel, if you will, and based on the dynamics of technology, yes, intersecting with a whole new wave of young consumers and their new set of values, and obviously more power than every consumer before them. Retailers must respond by rolling out small stores in the neighborhoods of their consumers, curated with only their preferences, the consumer's preferences in that area. So get it, Shelley, across the street, right?
Absolutely, Robin. I think you've been writing and talking about this for many, many years. In fact,
Yeah.
I actually think you were the one of first people that was out there with this idea of this kind of structural shift in retail, and many brands really realizing that they have too much square footage, right? And
Yep.
they're missing out on being kind of directly connected to the consumer in their own community. So the two C's
Yep.
of 2023, connected community.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, and before we get into the weeds here, just let me say that over 20 years ago at Bloomingdale's, when I worked for Bloomingdale's, they came out with the quote unquote small store strategy,
Oh,
uh,
yeah. Yes,
which
I remember.
yeah, and that was spot on back then. But keep in mind, Robin, the small square footage strategy that they had back then was the Soho store. So I'm talking about going from a 180,000 square foot store to 80,000 square foot, right?
Also, Shelley, to jump in quickly here, they also didn't have the technology and the analytics that we have today. Even so, that store was very successful, I know. But
Of
excuse me,
course.
go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely spot on, Robin. But today, what we're, and I don't mean to be like a spoiler alert on our own podcast here, but Bloomingdale's new small store strategy is actually much smaller. It's only like 20,000 square feet. So
Right.
anyway, I think we should give some background on where we are and how we got here, and about, just kind of talking to our audience a little bit about how things were accelerated coming out of the pandemic. So do you want to start, Robin?
Yeah, sure, Shelley. And I'll summarize this for our listeners because many of these things we have been talking about all year. But think about it. Let's start with the unprecedented global pandemic, right? Then a shutdown of almost the entire economy, then a global supply chain collapse, which quite frankly, Shelley, I'm tired of talking about. I mean, it's the overstock situation coming into 2022, and now we are in, the Christmas selling period. So let the deep discounts start rolling, and every day we get closer to December 25th. Oh,
That's
yes, and
right.
not to mention the war and political bizarre land. So, Shelley, on a macro level, what's your take on the pandemic's bottom line here?
Well, I think, the pandemic really accelerated the winners and the losers. It really
Yep.
defined, okay, here are the best retailers, and it kind of raised them kind of on a pedestal. And what it did was it took out kind of the weak players, survival of the fittest, I suppose. But even before the pandemic, we've really seen some shifts over the past, years. And now we're seeing kind of them shake out a little bit. So the
Yep,
intersection of technology with millennials and specifically Gen Z. So pre-pandemic, we were at the intersection of both the emergence of new technology as well as this huge shift in new generation of consumers, particularly Gen Z, and these young consumers who have been weaponized with technology,
that's right.
smartphone, internet, social media of all types. And essentially, we've given them all this power now as consumers, and they're like more powerful than any consumer before them. So in fact, they could and still can, they can demand retailers and brands, don't just fulfill my needs, but really satisfy my dreams. So,
Right. Good way to put it. Yeah.
right? So this is all kind of driven this demand for heightened experiences, personalization, convenience, speed, and credible value. And still, that's what the consumer is mandating. So we have this new emergence of these consumers, and with it, a new whole culture that comes along with the consumer, which is I want quality over quantity. So really this pursuit of quality more than just buying more things. They desire small, intimate, personalized stores over these big, vast real estate of stores with commoditized offerings, lifestyle experiences over accumulation of stuff, and really replacing fealty to stockholders to really all stakeholders. And
Yep.
you and I talked about this, for the past year on our podcast.
Yeah, but it's all worth repeating, Shelley, because these are major points. So anyway, and this is what happened over the past decade leading up to the pandemic. As the accelerant of technology intersecting with a new wave of consumers with an entirely new culture and set of values, and now with more power than all consumers before them. So now let's try to connect the dots to the future, Shelley. And now we're going to switch to focusing on the three most important drivers of the industry's transformation and which are imperative for success. And then how the integration of these three imperatives will drive the largest strategic and structural shift in the history of the industry. And in our opinion, when it plays out, it'll be bigger than even in the 1960s, the explosive growth and the launch of new retail models. I mean, malls were going like crazy, culminating at their peak of about 4,000 regional malls around the country. There are 5,000 department stores during that period. Big box category killers were launched along with Walmart, Target, and Kmart. Huge transformation. We believe this one will be even bigger. So driver number one of the three, we do know that in the early 2000s, as Amazon, of course, was on a rocket ship, figuratively then, but today, of course, literally.
Right.
Anyway, a little bit of fun there. Anyway, the brick and mortar retailers and brands were quaking in their boots for fear of a digital apocalypse, kind of wiping them out. I mean, that was the voice going back then. But then as the brick and mortar guys started to build their own digital commerce, they quickly noticed they had four major advantages than the pure digital guys and Amazon. Consumers were spending 3 to 5 times than when they had only one channel to shop. Secondly, their stores had a dual purpose, right, for shopping and as distribution centers, right? So third, they can be used as pickup and return spots. And finally, delivery costs obviously would be reduced. So rather the opposite of this acronym FODA, fear of digital apocalypse, maybe the digitals are now concerned about FOPA or fear of a physical apocalypse. Anyway, physical stores are an imperative.
Absolutely, Robin. And this whole great realization of faux pas, not FOMA. So FOMA is fear of missing out, but faux pas is fear of physical apocalypse.
Right.
And literally, Robin, Amazon, along with all the other pure digital players, they wake up and they realize that they must adopt to this new omni-channel model to get the synergy of both online and offline, and to make use and get those extra dollars from consumers. So this dual purpose of shopping, distribution centers, but it also meant they would have to make huge capital
Yep.
investments in time, money, resources, right, to
Yep.
build out these physical footprints. And of course, this always raised the question, which Robin, you and I talked about this consistently for years: do you build or you buy? And we kind
Yep.
of see how the build your own option chosen by, for example, Amazon hasn't really worked out for them. So, in fact, they frankly have not really one successful rollout of the many physical models that they've tested. And they really haven't scaled any of their stores, their physical stores.
That's
So,
right.
and we look at the physical stores. So when we look at Walmart, for example, this idea of buy versus build, has definitely advantaged Walmart because they get it. They acquired, as you know, jet.com.
Yep.
But they really didn't acquire just the company. What they acquired was the digital intelligence, a la Mark Lure. And, they nearly decimated the learning curve on digital side of the business.
Yep.
They very quickly got into digital. And, of course, Walmart has recently acquired Alert Innovation. That's the robotics company, to help with their dominance, and I mean dominance in the grocery delivery market. But there's
Yep.
other examples like American Eagle Outfitters. They acquired two logistics companies to help with fulfillment and localized markets in the areas that they serve. So these logistic companies, they have the relationship, the
Yep.
resources, and they have the local know-how to really expedite that fulfillment and last mile delivery. So again,
Yeah. Yep.
buying versus building.
Yeah, Shelley, and that is major. So, the behemoth from Arkansas, Walmart, obviously is not going to wait for Amazon to catch up in the physical world. And in my opinion, if Amazon doesn't stop kicking tires, so to speak, and start acquiring, it'll be too late for them. They should have bought Kohl's or Kroger, but we have discussed this already ad nauseum. Right? I mean, so anyway, let's move on to a more pressing issue with Amazon's leap into physical. Amazon does not have one senior level executive that understands the real world of retail. More of a reason that they should have acquired Kohl's, and along with it, the experience retail management comes with it. So anyway, that's
I mean, certainly, if you're missing out on that physical space, you really can't run an omni-channel business. That's the number one driver that we're talking about, this
right.
seamless integration across channels. So
Right.
let's move on to driver number two, which is this personalization imperative. So artificial intelligence, analytics in general, those are kind of now the low-hanging fruit for all retailers, because if it's really implemented well, it yields immediate short-term increases in revenue. We know
Yep.
that. So the companies that really understand, know how to mine tons of data, know which data pick, which data look for, and then, what data is most effectively applies to benefiting the consumer. So again, this whole idea of data analytics. And Robin, you know, Amazon's the poster child in this kind of personalization because
Yeah,
they
you
their
have to
data
you have to give it to them for that. Yes, go ahead.
100%. I mean, they
Yeah,
have billions of eyeballs around the world,
yep.
and even the data of their third-party sellers that in their marketplace, they have access to that. So they really have been brilliant on the side of analytics. So, you know, Amazon knows what a 35-year-old mom with two kids living in the northeast corner of Keokuk, Iowa. They know what she eats for breakfast. They know what brand's jeans she's wearing. They know what time she feeds her dog every day, you know, and so
That's
on. And
right.
yeah. So, you know, the brick and mortar world is catching up. And as they perfect this kind of personalization effort from the data analytics side, you know, they also understand the customer sentiment. So they're going to add this kind of human touch to the data analytics. So what are consumers feeling? What trends are resonating with them? Real time. And this can be done really by layering in the social media data of customers and you know customers social circus or you know their circles, the social circles that they hang out with, you know they're really looking at that. So a good example of a company that does that, Shein does this really well. So
Yep.
they're able to forecast trends even before the consumer knows what it is they're looking to purchase. And just have to state here, I'm not a big fan on Shein because of the lack of sustainability of the company.
Oh
But
yeah.
you know you have
Yeah.
these young digital native brands, you know, that understand this model and using AI to really personalize style picking and personalized products. So we had Sarah McVitie on. She's
Oh
the
yeah. Right.
remember her? She's the
Yep.
founder CEO of Dressipy. And she was really talking about this really cool topic of personalization. And you know how we have social media, and if you click on a social media ad, it takes you to a landing page. And you know, she talked to us about, you know, instead of just going to the landing page of that one particular item, why not bring them to a landing page of many items with, you know, products that are complementary of one another. So it goes back to that idea, Robin, of don't just fulfill my needs,
Oh yeah.
satisfy my dreams.
Yeah, very good point, Shelley. And of course, artificial intelligence and analytics are also the most powerful tools for gaining transparency in the entire supply chain. The result of which retailers and brands can most efficiently and effectively manage and control inventory down to the SKU level. So Shelley, on to driver number 3, which is inventory optimization. And that is the third imperative. Simply put, now with multiple channels, online and in stores, and the need for different products in different regions, again, learned through analytics, um, inventory varies down to the SKU level and specific stores. You know, gone are the days of ABC assortment by stores, you know, types or size, which you well know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a retailer now, you know, can have 2 stores a mile apart, but with very different customers. So inventories need to be different. I mean, example, Upper East Side of New York City is much different than the Upper West Side, although those stores are less than 2 miles apart. This holds true with suburban stores as well. So, you know, the importance of this with perfect inventory optimization, which nothing, of course, is ever perfect, but the, you know, but the results will be in having the precise SKU desired by the precise consumer, where they want to find it, when they want it, for the price they want, and how often they want it. Perfect.
And Robin, yeah, absolutely. And Robin, to add on to this, you know, this kind of speed and newness that's demanded by the consumers means that supply chains really have to be more agile and flexible than ever before.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, this inventory optimization is really going to drive consumer loyalty, increased sales, higher profits, and more frequent visitation. We've seen that with some of the fast fashion retailers for sure.
Yep.
And all of this is going to add to the bottom line. It's going to reduce these horrific markdowns that have been happening in the fashion side of the business, and not to mention reducing the inventory holding costs. So, two words here, Robin: SKU rationalization.
Amen. Okay, so the combination, as I mentioned before, of perfecting the omni-channel model, driver number one, artificial intelligence and personalization, number two, and inventory optimization, number three. So the seamless integration of all three of these has been and still is the catalyst for, yes, we're finally getting to our big thesis, the catalyst for the most significant strategic and structural shift in the retail industry that has just begun, Shelley, but will accelerate. You know, in my co-authored book, The New Rules of Retail, I coined this term preemptive distribution. Simply, in an overstuffed market with hundreds of equally compelling products and brands, all either a key tap away or literally in a store across the street, it's obviously a no-brainer that the product that gets in front of the consumer first, faster, and more often ahead of all of those equally compelling competitors will win. I like to use this example. Wayne Gretzky, who was an all-time great hockey icon, when asked what made him great, he answered without pause, I go to where the puck will be. That is preemptive distribution, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's no longer just physical stores. Obviously, Amazon proved it on day one of their existence, promising convenience and speed. Convenience, ordering from one's couch, and speed, receiving it in hours. You know, Bezos coined the term the last mile as being the most important final delivery link, but the toughest and costliest to execute efficiently.
Absolutely.
Which is, yeah, and of course, that's why Bezos bought cargo planes and franchised last mile delivery with its own vans and trucks,
Right.
stealing, really stealing talent away from UPS and FedEx, I might add. So we are seeing the early beginning, or to say it again, the biggest strategic and structural shift in the history of retailing, only because of technology and analytics and the ability to know what the working mom with two kids and a golden retriever in the northeast corner of Chicago, what she eats, you know, for breakfast, the brand of blue jeans, so forth, that she wears, and on and on. And then knowing that literally putting a store across the street in her neighborhood, assorted with all the stuff she prefers, and many and fluid supply chains, and online, of course, and curbside. So Shelley, location, quicker and easier access means moving closer and closer to a retailer's consumers in their neighborhood with products they prefer. So I call it the Great Fragmentation. The giants go small with neighborhood shops.
I love that term, Robin. That's excellent.
Well, thanks. Or we can call it demassification, if you will. The small store strategies of some of the biggest legacy retailers right now, Target, Macy's, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, Walmart, all of their neighborhood shops vary in size. And of course, some have more than others. They're just beginning to roll them out, but they're varying in size from 20,000 to 40,000 square feet, which is, Shelley mentioned earlier, which would roughly be a mere 1/10 the size of their big box or flagship stores. And these are just the beginning, and we'll come back shortly with some details. But there's going to be a second neighborhood type of model, mixed use neighborhood, open air communities. Think the Grove and Americana at Brand out in LA. You know, a wide expanse of gardens and fountains and restaurants, movie theaters, streets of shops and boutiques, and a mixture of residential and commercial real estate. This model is accelerating, and the malls that will survive, only the ones that will survive, will convert to a similar but enclosed mixed-use lifestyle destination for entertainment and other experiences. So, you remember we had Bill Taubman, the president and COO of the Taubman property, Shelley, a few weeks ago.
Of course.
Great. Yeah. And the context there was revealing the future of malls. And he said, and of course, Taubman malls is some of the best out there. Anyway, he said the integration of digital and physical is much greater than it would have been without going through COVID. He added that the ability to deliver a hybrid shopping experience for consumers can build deep loyalty. And finally, the moms and pops down the street, a back to the future model, which of course it's like Mitchell's of Westport, Connecticut, a small neighborhood store, family owned, using analytics. You walk through their front door and they greet you by your first name. And by the way, how was your birthday last week? And how's the pup? I heard not feeling so well, and on and on and on. Anyway, also, as you mentioned before, not on this podcast, but you and I've talked about Annie's Blue Ribbon store in Brooklyn on Main Street. The owner knows all the customers by name. She uses social media to drive marketing efforts in a very localized fashion.
I mean, the future of retail really is shaped by kind of this hybrid shopping model. And it's based kind of on the new normal of highly interconnected experiences that serve specific target markets. So local, personal, smaller, curated, and customized assortments. I recently wrote an article on the Robin Report that talks about this idea of reimagining retail.
Yeah.
This old school kind of cookie cutter approach of building more, bigger, faster, it just doesn't resonate with today's consumer mindset. So I think the pandemic has really left consumers with this kind of new set of values, a higher expectation of what service means, and, quite frankly, very little patience when things don't go the way that they should.
That's right.
Daniel Hodges, who he's the
Yep.
CEO of Consumers in Motion. He runs the retail store tours. He also discussed in my article about the 4 shifts in this physical retail, which includes social media, 5 senses, meandering store design, and smart stores.
So, Shelley, now it's time. Let's take a look at the big legacy brands and what they're doing. So now we went through the context of the imperative drivers, the 3 most imperative drivers, and how the integration of them, the use of analytics, and being able to build a whole new distribution channel, a whole channel for new growth. So let's take a look at the facts and how it's being played out. And I'll start with Target. They are arguably the poster child of this strategic and structural shift in the industry. According to COO John Mulligan, they plan to open about 30 stores per year for the foreseeable future. Those small stores, okay? Target's
Right.
total fleet, of course, including its full-size locations, roughly around 1,900. But a spokeswoman for Target commented in a Motley Fool article that the sales productivity of Target's small format stores is twice our company's average. Think about that.
Easy.
The local vibe really goes beyond product assortment. 60 of these stores feature art created by local artists, So Target, a poster child example of the integrated use of omnichannel artificial intelligence and personalization and inventory optimization, fluid and agile and accurate supply chains. On to Bloomies and Market by Macy's. You mentioned before, it's kind of a re-beginning for them because they did that small Soho store. They were ahead of their time, but it was very successful. Anyway, Market by Macy's, small stores, carries a curated assortment of products located in neighborhood centers versus large malls, so that shopping is quick and easy, and they continue to perfect the model and plan to roll out more of them over the next several years. Currently, 2 are in operation in Texas and 3 in Georgia, and my sources tell me they are doing great. So they're getting some learning out of it, but it is a whole new strategy. Bloomingdale's also launched their small store strategy with quote unquote Bloomies. That's the nameplate on small stores. And CEO Tony Spring talked about the new concept as being the neighborhood store for its customers, with plans to roll out more in the coming years. Nordstrom Local, kind of a triple header, personalization experience and buy online, pick up in store. This was part of an article I wrote in 2017 when Nordstrom launched its small store strategy in West Hollywood, California. There are now, as I mentioned, 5 in and around 2 in New York City also. But anyway, here's what I had to say about it. Nordstrom Local is a visionary move, responding to the demanding consumer youth culture, right? Boldly, innovative, and counterintuitive. There is no merchandise in the store. It is a small, 3,000 square feet, fun, personalized experience. It is compelling as a quick and easy neighborhood destination where you can enjoy a full beverage menu, including California sourced beer and wine, cold pressed juices from Pressed Juicery, and crafted espresso drinks from Nordstrom's E-Bar. Oh yes, and you can do this while you're getting a manicure.
Yeah, I know, Robin. I got to be honest with you. I'm not completely sold on this Nordstrom Local concept.
I know. Go
I
ahead.
just don't. I just don't get why customers would want to use that space that has zero product in it. I mean, consumers go to the stores to shop. In Nordstrom's Local, they're not being thrilled by this great product assortment that Nordstrom's usually gets for its customers. One of their key competitive advantages is they get great merchandise. So you're
Yeah.
taking away that one element that really excites the customer. And I love Pete Nordstrom and his leadership style and all that. To be honest, Robin, I'm going to say my prediction is they're either going to close the local concept stores because they don't make a profit, or Nordstrom's is going to add high margin businesses to that format. Why can't Nordstrom's Local be a 2,000 square foot store that actually has product in it?
Well, Shelley, I totally get what you're saying. And by the way, you may very well be right on this. I mean, it is an unusual model for sure, but and it's at the very least a great marketing platform. But with personal stylists in every Nordstrom Local store, giving one-on-one advice on looks, etc., and having the customer order online at that moment in the Nordstrom Local, and having it delivered to either to the home before they even get back. All of that might find it is, in fact, a new channel for growth. But we shall see. I'm told that consumers that go in there, they do enjoy the experience, blah, blah, blah. And they're finding there are a lot of direct orders coming over the internet from those shops. But we'll see. You're making a good point. So let's jump to Walmart's neighborhood markets.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the markets, which are 1/5 of the size of Walmart supercenters, alongside the supercenters, pose a major threat, really a major threat to traditional supermarkets like Whole Foods, Kroger, and Trader Joe's. Such a large threat, the recent buyout news of Kroger and Albertsons proves out,
Crazy.
out competition is hot and heavy against Walmart's grocery market, which, by the way, did more sales in grocery than Kroger and Albertsons combined, over $218 billion. The combined new deal with Kroger and Albertsons projects about 209 billion.
So essentially, Robin, if you merge Kroger and Albertson, they still won't do enough
Yeah,
grocery business to compete with Walmart.
that's correct. So with food prices up 11% through September on a rolling 12-month basis, consumers are looking for lower cost options like Walmart's neighborhood markets,
Yeah,
as
and of
they're
course,
called.
don't even forget that, Walmart is delivering inside the store to customers' homes. So they're literally delivering groceries in a customer's home in the refrigerator. So
Right. Yeah.
forget the physical store stuff. This last mile delivery, you can choose your own person. You can have the same person delivering groceries inside your house every week. It's the same, kind of concept as Target's Shipped model, of
Yeah,
course.
that's spelled SHIPT, right? And they bought them, right? They acquired
Yes,
Shipped. Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. And I think the other smart, kind of product addition to the neighborhood market is fuel, right? Fuel.
Oh,
So
gas, yes.
yes, yeah. So this increases the frequency of visits. So the number of times consumers go to the Walmart's neighborhood market when they are filling up their gas tank, it builds loyalty. And again, right now, I mean, inflation, slowly growing,
Yeah.
but they want to buy the cheapest fuel possible from a trusted brand. It's a brilliant move by Walmart.
Yep, totally. So, Shelley, to wrap it up, let me go through kind of a summary of the key points that we've been making today. First of all, a new young culture armed with technology driving an enormous strategic and structural shift in retailing. This is not to forget that consumers really drive everything, okay? So that's number one, and they really are driving the structural shift. But along with it, retailers obviously have to respond, and they are, with their continual elevation of technology embedded in every function of the business. Omni-channel, some call it digital, which is a combination of physical and digital, is imperative number one. AI, artificial intelligence, perfection of analytics to drive personalization / localization, imperative number two. Inventory optimization, imperative number three, because without control and management of inventory, all the other stuff falls apart. And the seamless integration of all of the three above compels local neighborhood shops. And you are going to see that accelerated over the next many years. And people will look back 100 years from now and say that was the biggest strategic and structural shift in the history of retailing. And that's all, folks. Okay.
Well, nice
Thanks.
summary, Robin. Thank you for that. For our listeners, you can find more of our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Buzzsprout, as well as therobinreport.com. So look for us on YouTube, where we also broadcast our podcast. And please follow us on social media and link in with us for the latest thoughts about the industry.
And I want to thank everybody once again for joining us. And as I mention every week, if any of you have a great topic that you would love for Shelley and I to cover, just shoot me an email. It's robin@therobinreport.com. And thank you all again.